generally speaking, all of our drugs at the moment, we take them as an oral tablet or as an injection, and the drug goes across our whole body, but it's usually just one organ that we want to treat. Now, an example of a disease in one organ would be something like multiple sclerosis. In multiple sclerosis or MS, you've got this inflammatory process that is going on inside the brain that is causing damage to the central nervous system and to signaling from the brain to the muscles. This is all coordinated by the immune system. So if you get regulatory T cells to go into the brain, they can shut down the inflammation and they can also initiate a healing response. So in the baseline state, there are a small number of these regulatory T cells in the tissues that help block repair and initiate healing. Now, what we want to do is try to enhance these in patients who have got an inflammatory condition in one of their organs, such as the brain. So we've developed a drug that we can inject intravenously. This drug is essentially a vector that carries a DNA cargo that is able to encode a potent drug that allows the regulatory T cells to expand up in number and get into the organ that we want. So by injecting this vector into the bloodstream, that vector can then go into the brain. It can give its DNA cargo over to cells that are inside the brain so they can start making this protein that helps the regulatory T cells get into the brain and grow up in number. And this creates an environment where you've got more regulatory T cells, a more anti-inflammatory and pro-healing environment. The regulatory T cell is the opposite. It is the cell that is dedicated to shut down inflammation. They actually block any immune response, and instead they initiate a healing response. This makes them a really powerful cell type to combat any inflammatory condition or any autoimmune disease. Now, the cells that we're looking at here are a subset of these regulatory T cells that don't just go around our blood, but they actually go and they live inside our tissues. And they are living in almost any tissue that we can look at. We're really lucky that the regulatory T cells are a renewable resource. They are made in an organ called the thymus that sits just above our heart, and they can constantly produce more of these cells throughout our life. Now, the source of these cells, the thymus, it does get smaller when we get stressed, it gets smaller when we get sick, when we get pregnant. It also gets smaller with age. So there is a finite cap, but there will be cells continually generated throughout our life.
Look at these, and because these are the controls in the adult animal, which...
Now that we know the cells can go from organ to organ, that gives us the potential to rewire those cells, get them to where we need them today so that we can really get the most therapeutic benefits.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download Metro TV Extend sekarang.